Hi guys, Dave with First Place Auto Parts in the studio today. Thanks for joining me. You know, the name game has never been more confusing, especially when you're trying to find out information or look for a vehicle to buy. And when it comes to classic GM trucks, the name game is in full display. Look, if you don't use the right words, you may only get partial information that you're looking for, or even might get the wrong part. So in today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the difference between the GM Squarebody trucks and the GM OBS trucks and find out what the difference is, so when you're looking for information or even trying to buy a vehicle, you have the right nomenclature for the right truck. General Motors produced the Squarebody trucks all the way from 1973 to 1987, with the exception of the crew cab and the heavier duty trucks such as the K5s to satisfy a 10-year government contract they signed in 1981. So those heavier duty trucks, they looked like a Squarebody all the way up until 1991, but the half-ton trucks were done by 1987. And what GM did with the Squarebody is they developed that thing, believe it or not, in a wind tunnel. It's hard to believe as squared off and flat as the front of that truck is, but they did. They used a wind tunnel to build that thing, and everything from the hood to the chassis was built completely different than the previous generations. Also interesting with the GM Squarebodies is they added a crew cab option in 1973 and even started putting diesels in 1987 in their half-ton pickup trucks. And time waits for no man and no truck, and as technology marched on, GM upgraded the Squarebody truck, got rid of the carburetors, and started adding fuel injection in the form of throttle bodies, or TBIs, which stands for throttle body injection. The crazy thing is about the Squarebody truck is previous generation trucks, typically that body style lasted for 7 years. The Squarebody for GM, it doubled that. It lasted for 14 years, making it one of the longest running truck generations of all of GM's time. And now the Squarebodies could be offered in either two-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. The two-wheel drive versions were called the C Series, like a C10, and the four-wheel drive versions were called a K Series, like a K10, which would mean four-wheel drive half-ton truck. GM was very proud of their development in the wind tunnel and the use of the wind tunnel, and it's relatively more round shaped than of the previous generation trucks they replaced. So internally, GM marketers called it the rounded line, where most enthusiasts, we just call it the Squarebody because, to be honest with you, it's pretty darn square. Also, in regards to value, they're on fire right now. Squarebodies, they made a lot of them. They made them for 14 years. But people have caught on to the neat combination of the classic looks and the complete usability. Driving a Squarebody is a lot like driving a truck with a little bit more comfort added to it. It's not that bad. It's actually very usable. If you can find a clean Squarebody, meaning it'll still need paint probably and it may have a little rust, but it runs and drives, you can expect to pay at least $10,000 to $15,000. The sky's the limit on these things. Look guys, at auctions, some of these things are bringing $30,000, $35,000. They were once affordable, they're still kind of affordable, but if you want to get one, you better get one now because the prices are only going up. And the next step on the evolutionary chain of what we consider to be classic GM trucks is the OBS truck. And the OBS truck was produced from 1988 all the way through 1998, which gave it a 10-year body run. Now, OBS trucks are what we would consider to be really the first modern truck. These things had a lot of conveniences that we take for granted today. We expect them in our today's truck. Things like fuel injection became standard, or automatic overdrive transmissions became standard, and so did ABS, especially on the rear brakes. Other creature comforts like power windows and locks became more and more acceptable with a truck as they started to morph into something that we could drive every day as opposed to just hauling stuff and using it for a work vehicle. Now internally, GM called these new trucks the GMT 400. We as enthusiasts, we call them OBS trucks, which stands for older body style. The reality is that either one will work when you do your searches. Also, one of the things that GM did, they kept the alphanumeric C for two-wheel drive and K for four-wheel drive, but what Chevrolet did is they changed the C10 to a C1500, the C20 to a C2500, and the C30 to a 3500. GMC, they sidestepped the alphanumeric thing and they just called their trucks the Sierra. Either way, as enthusiasts, we call these trucks OBS. Just don't confuse OBS with OSB, which is a type of plywood. When it comes to repairing or restoring one of these OBS trucks, the truck kind of falls into this weird spot. Look, the automotive aftermarket typically picks up where the OEMs let go. So when the part's no longer offered by your local Chevrolet dealer is when the restoration market will really start to produce things like door panels and carpets and seat covers and reproduction sheet metal. They're becoming more popular and there's more and more parts being available, but the OBS doesn't quite have the support that the GM Squarebody trucks have yet. That's going to change. Now, in regards to value, we used to be able to pick these trucks up for a couple $1,000s and have a decent runner. The reality is it's going to cost you in the low teens to get something that's actually drivable and usable every day that doesn't need a lot of work. Look, from there it goes on up. I've seen trucks $25,000, $30,000 for really nice examples of OBS trucks that have been lowered and have some performance modifications, but still, they're very noticeably an OBS truck. They're very usable. This is a modern step in the right direction if you want something that's a daily driver. The Squarebody truck and the OBS truck are more dissimilar than they are similar. As a matter of fact, the only thing they really share in common is the bow tie on the front grille. The OBS truck, look, it's a nice driving vehicle. It literally is one that you can live with every day and still put a camper or a load of wood in the bed on the weekends. The Squarebody truck is a lot more the way a truck used to be. It's a little harsher, it's a little more truck-like, and has far fewer creature comforts. Things like overdrive transmissions, fuel injection, and even analog brakes make the OBS a more pleasant daily driver, while the Squarebody, in my opinion, is like a step back in time. It's very capable, doesn't have the safety equipment, and you might have to drive it a little differently, but it can do everything the OBS can. It's just you're going to be a little less comfortable doing it. Both generations of trucks are easy to work on and are infinitely usable as a truck or a daily driver. If you have a project that you're working on and either need parts or thinking about buying one and want to see what parts are available, I'm going to include a link in the description of this video to the First Place Auto Parts website. Either way, mild to wild, a daily driver, or a ground pounder, First Place Auto Parts has the parts you need. I appreciate you watching this video, and now that you have a better understanding of the GM Classic Truck name game, go out and get your truck now. Because the reality is these things are on fire. They are highly desirable, and while you can still find some bargains out there, the prices are definitely going up. Also, consider subscribing to the First Place Auto Parts YouTube channel, because we're always adding new videos where we not only look at new products, but we also show you how to put them on, and we go to some pretty cool car guy stuff I think you're gonna like. And until next time, keep the hammer down and keep it between the guardrails.